For more, I'm joined by U.S. Congresswoman Jackie Speier of California, who's often on the program, a member of the House Intelligence Committee, also the Oversight Committee, and Robert Costa, Washington Post national political reporter. Congresswoman, I guess it comes down to a reckoning. When's the reckoning? When do the forces who want to see impeachment in your caucus come up against those who resist acting because they don't think you have the votes or whatever, or they think it's bad politics or whatever? When's that going to happen?
So, Chris, I am at a point in this process. I've already come out in favor of starting an inquiry. I'm at the point where we should be able to decide September when we come back. Either we're doing it or we're not doing it. This dance that we're playing is ridiculous, and we're not looking very decisive.
Talk about the timing, because I went through the numbers. I mean, you all know, the members of Congress are so politically astute. You know what the people at home think. You know about the chance of jeopardizing the leadership of the House and keeping all the House. You know all these things in your souls. And my question is, do you have enough time if you start in September to impeach this guy?
Well, I think that's the last time that we can really move forward swiftly to have a process that works. I mean, it may require us to take some vacation time away at Christmas time. It might reduce the length of time that we can spend with our families at Thanksgiving. But I do think that if we don't do it then we're not doing it, and to stop talking as if we might do it. And it's very frustrating to many of our constituents, I think, because it doesn't look like we are making a decision. I mean, the report is very clear. Interestingly enough, I had a huge uptick in phone calls today in my office as a result of the Mueller presentation. So I'm sure that's happening in other offices as well. And I think now the American people are starting to kind of focus on what really went on. For the longest time, all we were hearing from the president and others, it's a Russian hoax. No, the hoax was on us.
Right. You know, thank you, Congressman. Stick there, Robert. That's the best thing I've heard. It's a seasoned assessment of the situation the Democrats face, because like most things in life, there's a time limit. You can't just think and think and think. At some point, you got to get on that galloping horse of history, which I mention all the time on this show. The horse is going by. You're going to get on it or not? She said it's September, the Congresswoman.
I spent all day Wednesday by the trains down by the Senate talking to Senate Democrats, Senate Republicans. And when I huddled with Senate Democrats, they said their party has to make a choice. Do they want to impeach President Trump in the House, or do they actually want to win a trial in the Senate? If they want to do the latter and actually remove him from office in 2020, or try to remove him from office, they need to mount the evidence against him in a compelling way. That's why so
Well, that's a big if. The question is, if you can't do that, if you have what you as Rumsfeld would say, you got to fight the war with the army you got now. They've got a hell of an evidence out there.
But there's a real tension.
That this guy obstructed justice, that he played ball with the Russians. It's been public record for months now. What do they want now? They keep saying, if we only get the tax records. Do you think the tax records are going to incriminate him? Who thinks that?
Part of it's a political calculus, they tell me. Look at their success in 2018. They won on the economy, won on jobs, won in suburban districts.
In other words, they don't want to impeach. They don't want to impeach. You're just telling me in so many words they don't want to do it.
Help in suburban districts. That's the part of the question.
That's a calculation.
It is a calculation. It's politics.
You know, I know it is. I go back to the Congresswoman. I think most people in most districts, if you put to them your people in your district in California, what's more important to you? Impeaching this guy because he ought to deserve to be impeached just because he deserves to be impeached, whatever happens in the Senate, which is Republican. They're not going to get 2/3 over there, 67 votes. But he deserves to be impeached, or is it more important to make sure you've got secure holding of the 218 votes you've got in the House to hold control of the House? What's more important, controlling the House or impeaching this guy? What would the voters say?
I want both.
Well, life
and
ain't
I think
about
we can
both.
get both. And I think we can get both. We might, you know, if we lose a couple of seats in the House as a result of pursuing impeachment, I mean, I want that in the history books. I want to be able to say that I was part of an effort to bring down a corrupt president, probably the most corrupt president in the history of this country. We have him cold. We have him obstructing justice. We have him working with the Russians, giving polling data over and over again to the Russians to help undermine our election. It doesn't get much more egregious than this in my book. You
know, Robert, I know you don't have to take sides, but I'll tell you this one.
Never take
It's
sides.
on the record. It's on the record. Not only has he done this, he says he'll do it again. Not only has he said he'll do it again, he's making sure the United States Senate isn't going to do anything to stop this from happening. This is bold, it's outrageous, and he's saying, I'm with the other side. I'd rather play ball with the Russians than play ball with the American Constitution.
It's a reflection of this Republican Party, even with Mr. Mueller saying what he said about interference in 2020 and FBI Director Chris Wray. You have Senate Republicans refusing to take up legislation to address election security in 2020 because they do not feel any political pressure. When I was up there Wednesday, they're saying we don't have to move on anything because the president, day in, day out on his tweets, is framing this in his way.
There's our country. Thank you, U.S. Congressman Jackie Speier. I'm so impressed by what you said, as I often am. Thank you, Robert Costa, for delineating this reality, which is we're stuck with the worst sort of message to the American people. We're willing to have our elections trolled with, destroyed, played with, as long as we keep